I have to admit, unlimited grenades that heal you instantly on kills whilst giving you supers stupidly fast makes this a pretty fun build. Now okay, you might say, sure, Lost Sectors, yeah, but what about a Master Empire Hunt or Nightfall whilst underpowered by almost 20? Solo? Well, yeah, it's still pretty effective, considering you'd have 2 other helpers with you, but taking this into master activities whilst underpowered is never going to perform to its best potential, simply because adds are much tougher and harder to kill with abilities, but we're going to make it work as effective as possible. So guys, this video is sponsored by Awea, so if you want cheap silver for new awesome cosmetics this season, then be sure to check them out and use my code DIVIDE at checkout for a discount. And guys, comment right now what you think of Nothing Manacles, because I've seen a lot of mixed thoughts on this and I want to know what you all think. But now, let's build this machine. Nothing Manacles. When they brought this thing into Destiny 2, I didn't think it was going to be that great, but honestly, I'm loving this exotic more than Controverse Hold right now. Of course, the scatter grenades in general are not perfect, as they are pretty weak using bottom tree and still need a buff, but that's not the exotic's fault. Nothing Manacles enhances those scatter grenades, which essentially makes this build work much better, to the point where you can just spam grenades. And I know what you're thinking, better than Controverse Hold? No. I'm going to put this out there right now, Nothing Manacles is not better than Contra. But this build is designed around the use of Nothing Manacles for those who do want to use this new exotic or just want to have a little change up of their usual meta builds. So this is a Nothing Manacles scatter grenade build for the Warlock specifically. Now guys, before I yap away creating this build, I want to mention as always that if you like these builds that I do, there is a full continuously expanding playlist below that you guys can check out for more. Now with this build, in easy activities up to legend difficulty, you will be able to run around spamming grenades infinitely, getting fast supers in the process, which is stupidly effective for fast ad clearing, and you don't even need to use your weapons. Now in hard activities such as Master Nightfalls or Empire Hunts whilst underpowered, it won't be as effective, but you'll still be able to kill minor ads with the grenades, and therefore making this build still work. But you may not be able to run around like a god, simply because you're just not gonna kill every single ad, and you'll probably get killed instantly regardless of Devour helping you regain instant max health on every kill. But if you're at recommended power, yeah, I would say it should work pretty effective, and I'd recommend using this build if you want to try something a little different. But a bit of advice here, if you want to use this in those difficult modes, don't spam those grenades, because it most likely won't happen. You want to play it smart, use it to finish off kills, not on full health major ads or champions. Either way, the goal of this build is to get fast grenades for effective ad clearing where possible. So how you would use this build in any activity is first activate Devour by consuming your first grenade, then throw your second grenade at a group of enemies, ideally killing them, which will drop a void elemental well. Then picking up that well will give you 2 stacks of Charger Light and ability energy, and we'll get into what we have soon, but you should know that the first 1 or 2 grenades that you throw may not give you it straight back, as you will need to be Charger Light to start the grenade spree, but once you're set, you will be able to infinitely spam them on ads as long as you kill them and pick up those wells. So that's the overview of the build and how you should be using it, but now going through that setup for the loadout, you can use anything of your choice with this build, as we are a grenade ability build, but I would recommend using a good kinetic weapon for champions, along with a good fusion rifle and 1000 voices if you can, as it's the current meta for this season. But if you can't use that, then adjust your loadout to the activity you're playing. But for the subclass, we are running bottom tree Voidwalker, which comes with Devour. Now you can use any tree of your choice, but the most effective way for getting those infinite grenades is to use bottom tree. This does come with Devour, where kills with your melee regenerate health, and kills restore additional health when Devour is active, which is honestly one of the top subclass perks in the game, especially if you paired it with a risk runner, as you'll get infinite health and ammo regen on every kill. But this build is for our grenades, so we won't be covering that today. But the next thing we get is Feed the Void, where consuming that grenade to begin with will grant the Devour effect and restore health, the best way to start that build. Then lastly, while that Devour is active, killing enemies resets the timer back to 10 seconds and recharges your grenade. Also, by the way, put on the scatter grenade because that's what the build is focused around. Now for the exotic, we're of course using Nothing Manacles. This will give us an additional scatter grenade as well as enable tracking, and you can use many different exotics with this build, but for this one I wanted to make use of our new addition, Nothing Manacles. Now with our main mods for the build, the first thing you're going to want is Elemental Ordnance. This will create void elemental wells when we get a kill with our grenade, and the next mod you want is Elemental Charge, so we can become Charge Light when picking up those wells we generate with the grenade, but not only that, each well picked up will give us super energy, as our next mod is Well of Potency, and you can get this from the artifact this season. If you don't really care about your super, then you can use Well of Tenacity, which reduces the damage you take from enemies for a short time when you pick up those void wells, but in addition to picking up those wells, you'll also get ability energy. Not that we really need it, and using those Charge Light stacks, we will be able to regain some of our grenade energy back when we throw it, as our final main mod is Firepower, which needs to be slotted into Solar Armor. But we're using 2 of these as they stack the benefits of that energy gained, and it should also only use 1 stack of Charge Light still, so if you want to, you can replace one of these mods with something else like an energy converter for even faster supers, although I'd recommend sticking with 2 of these as it just only guarantees you get that grenade back when getting kills. But either way, it's not the most important as you have Devour anyway, and that will give you grenade energy on kills, but for harder activities I'd recommend using Firepower. Moving on for our normal mods in the helmet, we have our Ammo Finder mod for a heavy weapon, so adjust this to what heavy you're using, as well as Ashes to Assets for bonus super energy from those grenade kills. For the Gauntlets we have our champion mods that you may need to slot on the ones that you do need, then for the chest we have our ammo reserve mods for a heavy weapon. But if you're struggling in harder content, then you can swap these out to things like a sniper damage resist and concussive dampener if you are struggling to survive. But moving on to the leg armor, you want your scavenger mod for again that heavy weapon, and we will be basing this build on a usage of 1000 voices for our heavy weapon, so we will be running the fusion scavenger mod. Now lastly for the class we have Particle Deconstruction, specifically to make our 1k and fusions deal more damage, as this will allow us to do bonus damage to enemies when we deal damage to them with fusions, which does stack up to 5 times. One of the best mods in the game currently this season, which is why you want to use fusions, because they can deal some serious damage right now, especially 1000 voices. But moving on, the stat I'd max out is Discipline, just in case you lose that grenade and Devour, because if you lose those 2, then you'll have to wait for your grenade to come back, unless you have your melee. But if you use this build correctly and manage to get grenade final blows on enemies, then you really shouldn't have an issue, but in harder activities, you will be relying on your discipline a lot more to be high, along with the firepower mod to regain a little extra energy, as you may not always kill adds with that grenade, due to their health being so high in those harder activities. But this here is the artifact setup for this build. So for those who don't yet have Nothing Manacles, or you just want alternative exotic options to choose from, then you can use the Controverse Hold exotic Gauntlets instead, or Traveler's Chosen to regain ability energy. But if you're going to use this, then you'll want to run Top Tree Nova Bomb instead, and at that point you may as well just use the School of Dire Arankara, which by the way I'll be covering a separate fast Nova Bomb super build using this exotic at some point, as they did get a slight buff, so stay tuned. Now overall I do like this build and I'd recommend using this in all types of content up to Master. You could try a Grandmaster, although it may be tough to maintain a grenade, as adds are stupidly OP in there with health and you probably won't get the grenade final blow. Also the build does work a lot better when you're playing solo, so it's a lot better to use this build in Legend of Master Lost sectors. Even better if you have the Void Burn modifier active, as it will just tear through everything regardless of shields. But guys, that is all for this new PvE Nothing Manacles Warlock build in Destiny 2 Season of the Lost in 2021. Next you guys should check out the Never Ending playlist for more like this, but for now as always, be sure to drop a rating and let me know what you think of this build, and I'll catch you guys on Thursday for the next one.